yourself. In some cases, that's good because I noticed that the quality of student writing was deteriorating as time went by. I don't think that the average quality of student writing was as good as it was when we started out in 1969. But perhaps my memory is as bad about that as it is with how many students were on campus in the early days.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, but
finish what you're going to say.
okay. And I wanted to say that the mechanisms in the lecture were, we had the Blackboard lecture, and that's probably what we'll always have till the end of time. But in addition to the Blackboard lecture, there might have been an overhead occasionally, but there was certainly no internet connection. You weren't showing anything that you pulled off the internet. There wasn't any PowerPoint. Anything that we handed out, like tests or handouts, came from a mimeograph machine that had to be cranked like this somewhere. And it was a lot of work for professors to make those, because when you made a mistake when you're cutting a mimeograph template, you know, that was not easy to repair. What would you want to fix up on that other one?
Well, I'll give you my perspective. I remember when I was in middle school, this was in the mid-1950s, and the then older generation, they were lamenting about my generation, and we were not as motivated, and we were not as able at this and at that. And I hated that idea. And then when I started to teach, and there always were people who were going to say, you know, the kids today are not the same. And there are differences because of the access that students have to so much multimedia. It does take something away. But I had fine student writers, for example, when I started teaching. I still have some. I have fine student writers. I have some who write very poorly. It's always been a mix. And even schools like the Ivy League schools like Harvard, they too have some remedial classes for certain areas of activity. A couple of other things to note. Classes used to start at 8:30 in the morning, not at 8 o'clock. We eventually moved that around. Courses were 5 units instead of 4, with the extra unit, the 5th unit, meant to be for additional work. And when not enough faculty were giving additional work, we reduced it to 4 units. I believe this ended before I got there, but I believe there used to be there were books that everybody in the campus was supposed to read a book and have discussions. And I think there may have been some common exams or year-end exam or something of that sort. So are we getting the hook for the time?
Well, I think we got
Some questions, right, good idea. Okay, I'd like to hear from some of the students, because the older people, we can talk, you know, a lot, and especially those of us who are teachers. So among the students, things that you're curious about that we might not have covered, a perspective we can provide for you. Please don't be shy. Go ahead.
I was supposed to ask about the Powell Library. I heard it used to be one building before they added a wing to it.
Yes, yes. This wing was added, I don't remember what year, but 10, 15 years ago? No more than that, I don't think. Yeah.
I was here when I started.
Yeah. So,
University Hall was built in 91.
okay.
And so we had classrooms, and I'm in the philosophy department, and I came in 81. And the School of Humanities, before we had colleges, they were schools. You remember that?
Sure.
School of Humanities, now it's the College of Arts and Letters. And so we moved over there in 91, and I think the wing went up after that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it might have been.
So again, the library started out in Sierra Hall on half that building, and then when this was built, do you remember when this opened?
Well, it says out there.
1970.
Early 70s, right? Yeah. Okay. So then there was the centerpiece, and then this wedge came up, and I guess somewhere down the line, not in the too distant future, there'll be another wedge, maybe. That's the theory.
I have to say one last thing. That is that the number of women has greatly increased. The fraction of the population, there were very few girls in classes in my early days. At least I didn't see. Maybe 10% of the students that I had were female. And of course, it didn't take too long. I would say maybe 15 years it moved rapidly toward 50-50. And as far as the racial mixture, you remember, has there been a lot of change? Yeah. Has it increased?
American has increased considerably.
He was here. What year did you come?
I came in '68.
68. So what year did you say the Chicano population has increased?
Yes, tremendously. So the percentage-wise, yes.
Well, Juan, you came when you were a student, though, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to say
Right.
goodbye to us?
That's when I first met you, sometime early.
Are we going to say goodbye?
Are we going to say goodbye?
It's time.
Anybody else with a question? Like any young women here?
Something burning inside that you want to ask about?
Parking.
Parking.
An issue.
Parking was not an issue. There was no specialty parking. The only person who had a reserved parking space was the university president. Otherwise, it was first come, first serve.
Parking was still an issue, though.
Huh?
You only had one parking,
Well,
but it wasn't as bad as it is now.
mostly it was, am I going to park in this row or that row? Now, Ken and I had different memories about the cost. Ken says it was free when we started. My memory is that it was not, and the reason I remember that is that coming from New York, I was surprised that I had to pay for parking because the only way I could get to the campus was to drive. So to me, it was a tax in order to come to teach.
I don't think he ever paid.
Well,
Yeah. No,
folks in Indiana can be sneaky that way. They say that about us from New York, but we're really very honest.
I wanted to mention, I haven't been out to Cal State in a year or two, but I was shocked to see all those apartments when you drive
Oh, across
in.
the way there, yeah.
That was supposed to be the first week of campus. The president, Dr. Fow, gave a private tour to the faculty watch, and there were about 10 of us. And we walked around, and he pointed to that area and said, now this is where the faculty housing, your home, will be built here in the next few years. And nothing happened until...
No, and then there was some private money that was available to build some kind of a faculty club across the street from the campus over there. And that fell through.
That was a rustic inn.
Or the Wooden Nickel. One of those places. All right, the women are choosing to be quiet. That's your right.
You guys will be around for a little bit.
Sure.
If you have questions.
Sure.
On behalf of the library, thank you so much for coming.